Hi there. So somebody asked me yesterday, who's your favorite teacher in school? I'm like, look, I don't know how to say this. I went to 22 different schools in 22 different states, and I dropped out in 10th grade. Ninth grade was the last grade I finished. And they're like, oh, well, like, what teacher do you think was, thought you were their favorite student? I'm like, let me be clear. Never in the history of ever has any teacher been like, John Tennell is my favorite student. That did not happen, because every teacher in the world is like, you're a horrible person. And they would straight up look at me in the whole class and be like, you are a horrible person. I'm like, that's fair. I deserve that. I was unruly. I was a class clown, not smart at all. They would ask me something. I'd be like, sorry, I'm in another world right now. I'm not paying attention to you because I don't think it's that important. Now, that's partially true. I do want to tell you about some horrible things I did, okay? When I was in college, I got my GED. When I was in college, I had a professor, and he said, quote, all the time. When it wasn't really appropriate to say it, he'd be like, I was walking down the quote street, and I went to the quote store, and I got some quote groceries. I'm like, none of those are quotable. And it was very distracting for me. And because my mind works a lot, every time he said it, I would be like, hashtag. This is before Twitter hashtags. I counted, right? Well, then the next day, I walked into the class, and I was the only one in there. And I was like, And so I got the chalk and the chalkboard, and I was like, whatever the date was, 1991 or whatever. So-and-so said, quote, a whopping 37 times in one class period. And then I left the room, and I came back later. And when I did, everybody's looking at that, and they're like, we know who wrote that. I'm like, So I sit down, everybody else is sitting down. The teacher walks in like, yeah, how you doing? He turns around and he looks at the class and he goes, I think I know who wrote this. And he looks right at me and I'm like, And he goes, I do have a problem saying quote. I had problems with other words in the past, and I've had a problem with this one recently. I'll never say it again. And I felt really bad, okay? He never said it again. I never heard him say quote ever again for the rest of the semester. I was like, I cured you. You're welcome. I had another professor. He said constantly, and so I started making a hashtag. It was 177 times in one class period. I'm like, it's too many. It's too many. I don't think that you understand. Anyway, there's some dumb things I did in school. Also, when I was in school, when I was younger, like ninth grade, they were like, we're going to give you a choice. You can have SWATs or you can have on-campus suspension. I'd be like, SWATs, they're done quicker. What do I care? And so they give me SWATs. But then I got to be several times a day, and finally I'm like, I think I'll take the on-campus suspension. So I was in for 2 days, got out, got in for 3 days, got out, got in for 5 days, got out, got in for 10 days, got out. Eventually, they were like, look, you've got it for the rest of the year. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not scared of you anymore. So then I'd just be in on-campus suspension with all my friends, like talking, laughing, whatever. And they're like, you have to be quiet, like you're being punished. I'm like, all right, whatever. And eventually they're like, you can't be in general population. So they gave me my own room. Then I had my own room for an entire semester, at which point I stacked all the chairs up and made a bed. And I had a maze you had to walk through between desks that I flipped up and down all over the place. I pretty much ruined the room. I wasn't a good student. Like, I don't think there's a single teacher that's like, yeah, John was a good dude, ever. So when other people are like, snarky to me, I'm like, I deserve this. This is coming back to bite me, and I deserve this. I applaud your sense of urgency, sir. Have a good night.